Hey, let's talk a bit about Melody. Let's talk about how she's come this far, but will be facing even more struggles. And is facing some crazy struggles right now because they trying to dirty my girl's hands. And she's about to get her hands dirty, which I can't stand pretty much. She's gone through mafia and she didn't get her hands dirty. But now you wanna tell me she's about to commit murder? Nah, that's not my girl. Let's just start it from the start. Melody came here to help out Kurapika, but also to do her mission with the Hunter Association. She comes and finds the bratty prince that she's supposed to work for, but Melody is beyond what you think. Melody always knows. She just goes beyond the facade and all that because she can read hearts, she can read emotions, she can read more than what you present. When she read it, finds out the prince she's looking after is a hell of a sweetheart that's doing all she can so she can protect her sister. And she falls for her platonically. And we fall for her platonically. We all feel like we want them to get away with it. We want them to escape. We want them to live, to be happy. The twins need to escape. Well, lo and behold, that was not what the plans, or that was not the plans in the mind of Tagashi. Or at least that was just not gonna happen. This is not that type of story. Well, sad shit after sad shit, we find out that the plan is going well till it doesn't anymore. And our girls have to come back. Did I say our? No, I meant the girl had to come back. The little sister had to come back because her older sister, at least technically, by the way she holds herself, saved her in the last minute and even closed the door if you pay a bit more attention to the pages to save her. And she died. So the prince that Melody was fighting for with all her heart just died in this succession war. Melody has to at least honor her last wishes and fight for the other prince that her favorite prince was fighting for. But I mean, it's not like the prince is entirely dead, you say. Yes and no. Now here comes the prince's Nen beast that happens to actually become some sort of Nen creation of the prince, and it's a perfect replica of that prince, or seemingly, or to some degree. But I can't shake that feeling that in the end, I don't know, man, that replica might more be Nen beast than it is the prince or the prince. I was about to say princess, but they are all called princes. At least that's my feeling that I get from it. And even more so when this new chapter came out and our prince here is talking about murder. Now understand, she is thinking that this is all to defend our girl Fugetsu. She's the softer one, the shyer one, and she has to defend her at all cost. And I don't doubt that she has to do what she thinks she has to do to get it done. But now we're putting murder on the table? Nah, that's crazy. Now we put murder on the table and nobody's objecting. Nobody's objecting. And everybody's saying yes. We got yes here, and yes here. And this the thing, we're talking about three yeses because we get a new ally to Melody and her girls. And that would be the man Kaiser. Now Kaiser is an interesting man. From his first appearances, he lets us know he digs Melody. Now, I don't hate, to each their taste, to each what they would like. I just don't think that's how I'll see myself being with Melody. But he sees it like that, and I respect it. But I wouldn't stand by it if it's fake, which Melody feels like is fake. And we trust our girl, but she is not sure. And that's pretty much a first because Melody knows. But here she doesn't know because what she's hearing is abnormal. It's a hell of a rhythmically constant vibe that this nigga's giving. From that constant vibe that she's perceiving, she don't feel it. And she drops one of the things that she feels is happening. Melody is sure that Kaiser is being controlled either by himself or by somebody else. And crazy enough, I got a couple of theories about that, so let me share it. Now, is Kaiser being controlled? Maybe, to some extent. Probably not that deeply. But I might have something else for what Kaiser is, or at least what's happening to Kaiser, to the point that Melody cannot read him. Why can't she read him like she reads others? Now here's the twist. I think that the hint that came to me came in the form of Kacho herself. Kacho is a reproduction of a person made through Nen. But Kacho has all the aspects of a Nen beast. Going through walls, made out of Nen, all that type of shit. But she appears to people and all that. I think that she's not the only one of those Nen beasts made out of human, or at least made to have the shape and form of a human. And if you follow what I mean, I'm trying to say our boy Kaze here is not all human. Or at least he's a human, but not made of flesh. He's made out of Nen. Or at least Nen flesh. Hey, you know what I mean. I'm trying to say Kaze is actually a construct made of Nen that becomes flesh. And using that flesh, well, we got a Kaiser. Now, does that flesh hold the power or Nen? Not sure, to be honest. I've seen occasions where he might have seen Nen, take place or Nen take action. But at the same time, I feel like it's also part of the ability for this Nen creature to not use or enact Nen. Now, when I say all this, obviously I mean that it is some sort of Nen beast, but highly different from what we've seen so far. It being this new Nen beast, highly capable, highly intelligent, but also highly independent from its owner, and probably has so much more conditions that were included to make it as human as possible. So much so that you could pretty much consider it another human being on itself. In some way, what I'm trying to say is I think that Kaiser is an avatar of somebody else, or at least a clone of somebody else, or at least a sub creature of somebody else, made of Nen that becomes flesh, but that's made so that it can just act out in a normal way, and become a spy in greater forms of society, because Kaiser's position in Kakin is actually pretty important. He's a whole chief of bureau for the Justice Department. So we understand that Kaiser holds a pretty great responsibility in Kakin. So it makes sense that he would become a spy, a reliable spy, by not being somebody. Or, now hear me out, or Kaiser is not per se the clone, but is the main body, but has to get rid of all his aura so that he can create a Nen double. Because I feel like Nen doubles are in action, and one of the panels that made me think that was a funny little panel, an unimportant panel about Cacho going through the wall and Kaiser saying something along the lines of, "I can't go through the wall." Now, that might have been a joke, but this don't look like a funny man to me. I don't know if it does to you, but he dropped that line and a couple of other things that, to be honest, were not per se flagrant, but I still feel like we're a bit of the hints along the line that are important to keep in mind. But beyond that, we find out about a couple of other characters, I think, through this thing. Because also, although I say that this Kaiser, this concoction of Kaiser, doesn't have Nen, it's also important to point out that in some cases he reacted like a person that has Nen, or that at least is hiding that Nen. And those are the occasions that I want to mention. For example, this one time, Kaiser does react to the homeboy that was in the York News City arc, the guy with the pompadour, with the poems. When that guy gives Fugetsu a poem to save her from her beast that are attacking her, well, Kaiser gives his regards, he's grateful. Because I do believe that his feelings of protecting the prince, this precise prince per se, are legit. They seem legit to me. But I'm also thinking that he did that because he knew exactly what that card gave to the prince. And that was some saving grace. And listen, I'm just going on tangents here. But I do believe that we also seen occasions where Kaiser has shown, or at least acted well enough to hide away the fact that he knows about Nen. Whenever people are talking about Nen, if it's Melody or if it's Gacho that are talking about abilities, he is acting as clueless as possible. Now we've seen those two, and both could be just occasions where it's not so important or that I'm looking too far into it. But I still feel like those might be a bit of hints. Now, as to Kaiser's motivations, why I don't doubt them per se, I can't be sure how to explain it, but I think it has to do a lot with his position, maybe, or the fact that it's kind of clear that their Justice Bureau is looking forward to have a real change in the government. But one other aspect I think is important to note is the fact that what we do not understand is that the princes, since are pretty much only people born from the queen, are not so much so bound by fatherhood or by who the father is. And so there is a certain liberty in how who the father is. And when you know that Kakin has a history and how it was divided beforehand, you might think that maybe it's not that king doesn't know that some of his kids are pawns of other people, but it might just be more of a tradition that isn't spoken out loud, that is kept on the low, but that helps different fragments of Kakin society to each get their chance to acquire the throne and to get to rise to power per se. And I believe that because honestly, seeing Zhang Lei admitting that he's the son of somebody else beyond seems to have spawns among the princes, and probably other princes are spawns of other important figures of Kaken, such as probably Lucerus. Although nothing is sure, I believe that there is some chance or at least some space for Kaiser, for example, to become the father of somebody. When I say somebody, it's pretty clear. To become the father of Fugetsu in itself. Things like that. Well, that would be about it. That's about all I had to say. Even though it's not pretty concise, I think that we follow a pretty rugged line into the explanation, but I just felt like that all those aspects had a bit of link, so I had to talk about it. Hope to see you again.